everyone, John here, your host on the Prepared Mind channel. Neither rain nor sleet nor snow is going to keep me from driving home in the middle of the night. What a day today was. And I think I say that more often than not these days. So I wanted to touch on a little current events and then some practical application to how we think about how to be a good prepper, right? How to protect your family, your group, yourselves, right? Today, gold shot up, spiked up, and silver really spiked up. Incredible. Typically, gold and silver are safe haven assets. So there was a big move by investors in the United States of America and around the world to transfer their money, probably out of equities, maybe out of bonds, out of the dollar, into precious metals. Additionally, oil shot up way over 66. You know, just a couple weeks ago when there were predictions that we were going to go to 80, and some of us crazy guys were saying, I bet it's going to make it to 100. They said, like, no, OPEC this and stuff that, and it's going to go back down. And it very well could go back down. But it's certainly in an uptrend today. You know, what caused that? Is there something to worry about? And I'm going to say, yes, there is. There is something to worry about. The US dollar is continuing to lose value. And, you know, its purchasing power is going down. You know, what does that tell us? What is that, you know, what's that saying to us? You know, there's something wrong with the market. You know, a lot of us prepper types, a lot of economists, they're out way ahead of the curve. And they're cautioning people. You know, and they get accused of crying wolf or saying the sky is falling. But here we are, and it's, you know, the sky is possibly starting to fall. In a lot of ways, I liken this to a table with 8 legs on it, and a bunch of the legs have cracks and splinters falling out of them. You know, what I'm not saying is that a crash is imminent any day now. You know, I'm not going to call for panic. You know, odds are the government, the Federal Reserve, the plunge protection team, the big banks are busy strategizing, right? They're at the strategy board. What can they do to help stabilize the system? You know, they want it stabilized. Let's see if I can get some more light in here. There we go. They do. They want it stabilized. So they could get everything propped back up, shored back up. You know, the commodity prices could go back down. Oil could fall again. Who knows? What we do, you know, what we don't know is, can they do it? You know, if they raise interest rates to stabilize one sector, we can definitely have something else destabilize. You know, send it the other way. You know, if they print a bunch of money QE style, and you know, will that cause hyperinflation at that point, since the bond market is so, you know, such bad shape? So one of the questions being quietly bantered about, maybe not so quietly, depending on the circles you travel in, is, are they out of tricks? Is the magician out of tricks? Does the system now need to stabilize by correcting inflated markets? Markets that are overinflated, the bubbles, in other words. Is it time for that? When we had our crisis back in 2008 in the U.S. that spread around the world, there was a threat of a banking crisis. We didn't get one here. You know, we had banks fail, but we didn't get an individual banking crisis where you and I went to the bank and we couldn't withdraw funds, right? We didn't have that, but other countries did. Cyprus, Greece had issues. Italy's been flirting with issues for years now. France talked about some issues and then they seemed to straighten up. So if we have a system correction, system crash, it doesn't necessarily mean our assets will be frozen, but there's no guarantee they won't. So as preppers, what is it that we can do? What is it that we can do to ensure we're protected ahead of time? You know, I'm sure if you're a prepper and you've got a lot of money on Wall Street, you're thinking about what to do with it. Should you move over into more hedges? You know, not everyone has that type of disposable income these days. So, you know, what is it that we should do as just regular everyday Joes? You know, of course we need food, we need water, you know, medicine, shelter, clothing, means of self-defense, all of those prepper items. But as we get a little more itchy, and I'm not saying run out right now and do this, but certainly something we ought to be considering is making sure you do have cash on hand. When they had the banking crisis back in the 1930s, they had a bank holiday, people couldn't get to their money, a lot of trouble, you know, a lot of angst. If we have a Cyprus style one where they do capital controls, which means they regulate how much any individual person or company can take out, how are you supposed to meet all your needs? A lot of people complained that they just couldn't get enough cash. There was nothing in circulation. They couldn't pay their bills. And here in America, since we're so far in debt, it's all about our bills. We're all about servicing our debt. And if you can't transfer funds to pay off debt, what does that do to us? Do we get a mortgage holiday since the banks take a banking holiday? Or do they just tell everybody, hey, you know, the rent's due, mofo, where's the money? And you go, well, I can't get to my money. They go, well, then we're foreclosing. Is that in the cards, or is there some other sort of protection? You know, that will sort itself out in the long term. But in the short term, if they cut off our supply of cash, you can't go to the ATM, right? You can't go inside. There's no cash to go around because there's a banking crisis, a major correction on Wall Street. A panic happens and there are bank runs. It would probably be a good idea to keep as much cash on hand in your house, right? You might say $200 is enough, or $500, or $1,000, whatever your magic number is. You need to think about what you need cash for. Is it for buying milk for the kids, you know, and bread? Or would you use powdered milk and make your own bread out of your preps? What do you need cash for? And this is not shit, it's the fan, by the way. This is just banking crisis, cash crisis, capital control crisis. You know, that's what we're talking about. Odds are it would be a short-term thing, but you know, who knows? It could last a month, 2 months. That's where we start having some real questions. When I fast forward this discussion into Venezuela, you know, we go from the Cyprus style where people were just crippled to Venezuela, where it's more than being crippled. They had their legs cut out from them altogether. You know, when you stand in line for half an hour to get the equivalent cash value of a nickel, right? What are you going to do with a nickel? Well, it would be great if you had $500 where everyone can only get a nickel. You know, cash becomes king again. That's something that I recommend every prepper look at. If you have the wherewithal, the means, you know, the cash in the bank, as long as it's not allocated for paying other bills, you know, it may be a good idea. It may be the time to start looking at how much cash do we need on hand. You know, if you try and take too much out now, also, you might get the old stink eye from the banker. You know, there's Title 31 reporting requirements on different levels, transaction reports and mandatory reports. Not everyone gets a suspicious activity report if you take out more than $1,000 or $3,100. Even if you take out $10,000, even if you get a suspicious activity report, it doesn't mean the IRS or FinCEN is going to come and arrest you, the Financial Crimes Network. They're just not going to come and arrest you just because you have cash, but they're probably going to look into you a little bit. I don't know if I would recommend anybody gets $10,000 in cash and keep that. But today was a fascinating day when you look at it from the perspective of the prepper, right? We had some really big moves. A lot of people are catching their breath, thinking what they're doing. Tomorrow morning when the stock market opens, I really have a feeling that people will have made a decision through the middle of the night. There could be a giant rush into gold and silver, you know, and that's basically my prediction. People could see that oil's going up and recognize that we've got issues and run there. We don't have a war going on. We're not having trouble with Iran. There's no noticeably large problems that I know of in Saudi Arabia. I was on the road all day taking care of business, so I wasn't able to follow the news the way I like to. But I didn't see any of that type of news yet. You know, oil went up huge. You know, over $1. I think it was $1.50-ish. That's a big move. You know, when gold is $65 a barrel and it goes up $1.05, you know, $1.5, that's a big move. What does that mean? You know, are people getting into it knowing it's going to go up, right? Is the smart money moving there? And the thing about oil is that is energy. That's what whatever oil costs, that affects the ability for the economic engine in our nation and around the world to move goods and services, products, raw materials, foodstuffs. Everything requires fuel, energy, and if the energy price goes up, the cost of everything else has to go up. And the other thing that's been discussed lately is the subject of inflation. Now, if the dollar loses value, say 1% in a day, your cash has just lost 1% of its value in one day. You know, that's the dollar's value, but can inflation work on its own? Say the dollar's stabilized, but the cost of goods continues to go up. Well, that they can, and it does. And it's based on the cost of fuel and many other factors. Some of it's based on speculation on Wall Street and you know, other our futures concerns. We've got something going on in the economic sector, and it's unnerving to me. For as big of the moves and the type of moves that occurred today, when I went to check my news sources real quickly, it seemed to be conspicuously quiet. And always, you know, things when they're too quiet kind of get my attention. So, you know, a couple recommendations on my part would be to tell people, keep a sharp eye. Have a plan for dealing with potential economic troubles. Even if you don't go get money, you know, cash, keep it in a shoebox, you know, stuff it in the mattress, put it in the toaster slots, whatever your deal is. Before you go get it, figure out how much you need. What could you, in your case, right, what could you possibly need that money for? you know, your needs are not my needs. And so I can't say you need $500 or $200 is enough. Or if you don't have $1,000, you're going to die. You know, I can't tell you. One, I don't know what's going to happen. The severity of it, is it going to be regional? Is it going to be based on incomes in a certain area, the number of branches of banks, the population? You have to decide for yourself. But when a bank run happens, if we see bank runs, that is people going to the bank and trying to withdraw their cash. Not just the preppers, 3% of people, but what if 10% of the population? Banks don't have cash. They don't keep deposits on, you know, money on hand for deposits. And also remember, you no longer have funds on deposit. You are now an unsecured creditor, meaning when you put money in the bank, it's a loan to the bank. And when you go to get your money back, what you're doing is you're calling in a loan. And if they don't have the cash, they can issue you a cash equivalent in value, and that is bank stock. That is called a bail-in, and it has now happened around the world. They've test fired it. They've got the system. In the United States, they have the legislation. So if there's a banking holiday, a stock market crash, a dollar collapse, the yen made big moves today, by the way. You know, I'm not the yen, the yuan. Right? There's some big moves going on with relation to China and the United States. It's moving faster than even I anticipated. You know, dollar going down, yen getting stronger, not yen, yuan. Must be after midnight. There's some big things going on, and there's a number of ways it can shake out. As far as my personal stuff goes, right? I keep only enough money in the bank to pay my monthly bills. I figure that if there's going to be a crisis and I can't get more than enough money to pay my monthly bills out, then everyone else is having the same problem. And if Bank of America and JP Morgan and Chase want to foreclose on every house in the nation and pretend like they're not involved in the collapse of this, that is, they don't have any blame to share, that is, I don't think America is going to let the bank come by and tell everyone else, you know, that they no longer own their homes. I can't see that happening. But, you know, what the hell? What the hell do I know? I'm just a guy. Anyways, I'm going to get this video to Jolene, and she's going to get it out, so it's going to be a little late in the morning. But I you know, ask for your patience and your forgiveness for being late. She's going to get a message out. We're going to be a little bit late, but I didn't want to let today's news go by without some commentary and some prepper recommendations. Find out how much money you need. Do you have it is question number 2, right? And in the event that a bank run starts, number 3, if a bank run starts, can you get there and be at the front of the line? You know, can you send your husband or wife there? Your kids, right? But it really is critical to know where are you at in your preps and how much cash do you need to get by. Figure out for your instance and where you're at. You know, how much money are you going to need? Do you need to buy preps with that money? Right? What will you use it for? Can you barter with it? Lots to consider. So as these next couple of days shake out, we'll get some ideas. We'll get some more ideas and see what the hell is happening. So you guys be cool. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Godspeed to you all, and weird, wild news. You guys be cool. I'll talk to you soon.
is over. Get your Prepared Mind merchandise. Tell YouTube they can smoke it. Get prepared now.